Hello, everybody. Welcome back to a late night after our show. To my right is Charlie Walsh. You know who he is, all the way over at Hammers Chat. Go over and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Charlie, how are you doing?
Not bad, bro. Not bad. How are you?
I'm good, mate. Good. Life is is all right at the minute. I must admit, it's okay. I will say that it's okay. West Ham's like that at the minute, but we're going to talk about it.
Sure.
What about yourself?
Yeah, I'm alright. I didn't quite finish the pizza I was shoving in my mouth. As you can see, I got pretty close.
Fair enough,
So
mate.
I'm clearly in a good mood because I've just eaten a pizza.
Fair enough, fair enough. Before I get started, smash like on the video. I know it's a late one, and subscribe if you're sitting up late at night doing not a lot. Right, let's get into this. Has the real West Ham returned to Charlie for you over the
I mean,
last two
I would
games?
make. I would make the argument they never left potentially, but I mean, it really depends. I think every sort of year with Moyes, we tend to have this where we get a sort of period of big downturn. Obviously, last season was, I think, encouraged by other things, but the other seasons where we've done, my G, where we were sort of inspired by other things to try and change our system and implement like Skamaka and all this other sort of stuff, and it never really paid off. And then we ended up going back
Yeah,
to Moyes ball, winning things, right? I think when you're just playing pure Moyes ball, you tend to have these periods where you just go completely barren, and I think part of that's just you face teams that don't suit you. Um, this season I think was heavily inspired by injuries, all that sort of stuff.
mm,
I would say we never really left, but I think the signs are good for a strong. We've come into form. We're coming into form at the exact right time, the time we need it most. I think.
yeah, I agree. I agree with you, mate. What did you make of it Sunday, from your opinion?
I,
Saturday, sorry.
to be honest with you, I was really happy. Like I spoke to. I was saying during the watch along that I felt like if you were an Everton fan, you would probably be justifiably more upset. Say the same. Say it happened the other way around. We probably wouldn't be able to complain as much as I think Everton probably would have, because I think they were. I think they didn't deserve to lose like that. Having said that, I spoke to an Everton friend of mine about an hour after the game. He was at the game, and I said to him, hard luck. I thought you probably deserved that, to be fair." And he went, "Completely disagree. I thought you were so much better," which was kind of baffling to me as an idea, because
Yeah,
we just saw it completely differently. But I can't complain about it. I mean, like we can deeps it however we want, but ultimately going up against a Daesh team who don't suit us, those are the sort of games we usually under Moyes really struggle with, teams who play sort of deeper defensive lines, well structured. They're good defensively, Everton, as much as they are where they are in the league. I know it's a bit false because of the
yeah,
points and all that, but they are where they are. They are actually genuinely good. I think they're like fourth or fifth best like XG against, in terms
mm,
of people creating chances against them. So they are genuinely good. For us to get two last minute winners that are both great goals, in a chip and an absolute peach of a finish from Suchek. I don't know. I can't be too mad about it. I've just got elation from it, to be honest.
yeah. I'm with you, mate. I really am with you on this one. All right, when you see West Ham lose over the last 6 weeks, or where we have been losing, like three against United, six against Arsenal, two at Forest, the Bristol City defeats. You got to enjoy the moments when we win. I
Yeah,
think when you
100%.
look at it, I think if you keep looking at it on the negative all the time, yeah, you're just never going to be positive in life, like ever. Like, do you know what I mean, you can sit there and keep moaning and moaning and moaning and moaning and fucking keeping on all night, yeah. But
Mm.
sometimes you just got to suck it up and just go, you know what, it is what it is, and we're going to discuss it at the end of the season. I thought on the weekend, I said it on the after thought, and I say it again. I thought we got away with it to a point against them. Yeah, I think the goalkeeper had too much to do, especially against the Everton side who ain't really been doing a lot, to say the least. They've drew 4 games in a row, I think it was. Yeah, and they should have beat Brighton the other day. Yeah, so I thought we got away with it. But one thing I am happy about is West Ham are going to the end. That's 4 times now this season that we've scored late winners to get the job done, and West Ham were never known for that, scoring late winners. Like West Ham used to concede late winners, not score late winners. So for us to score late winners is a good thing. Do I think we've returned? I will know within the next 3 games where West Ham have returned back to how they were when they was kicking into gear.
Sure.
I think the way we're building it up, I think it's a good thing. Yeah, I think having Kudus, Bowen, and Paqueta all in the same team at the same time does help the situation because you've got 3 top players there. Um, I don't know. I just feel like West Ham might just start slowly going around that bend. Do you know what I mean? Because it was bad. Let's be honest, Charlie.
Yeah, yeah, it was. It was horrendous. Like the form we were in pre the 4-2 win was really bad.
Yeah.
Like I think there was a period leading up to the Arsenal win, so when we actually beat them away. There was a lot of discontent, and I was of the opinion that it was still going relatively well. I thought the reaction was maybe wasn't entirely how I would see it.
Mm.
But that period after that, leading up until the 2-0 loss, obviously, was just we were just abject. We were super abject, and I think obviously Paquetá leaving or not being available was a huge part of that. And then you obviously had Kudus away. Again went away, although that's not that much of a negative this season, if we're being honest about it. But it's one of those things. Antonio injured. It was just a lot of things culminated in this really horrendous run.
Mm.
And I think having all those players back, and actually one of the good things about the Everton match, I don't think Paquetá was incredible,
Yeah.
and yet we still got the win. And we did it we relatively well. So that's a big thing for us.
Mm. What do you make of it with Moyes, with the situation with Moyes currently? Because it's 1 minute people are like he's close to the end for me because I think he was close to the end. He comes out with a statement saying they're going to discuss the contract at the end of the season. Yeah,
Sure.
which I think I've always said it. As soon as I heard it, I went, "That's a Sullivan ownership model straight away." Put it on to him to say they're going to discuss it at the end of the season, take the heat off the ownership.
Yeah.
How do you sort of land with it with him currently right now?
I mean, I said this to you a couple of months ago. To be fair, I think when the sort of discontent started to grow a little bit more, I said to you, I was in the live chat of one of your shows or something. I said, "Listen, this is going to change 3 or 4 more times before the end of
Yeah,
the season, and he won't go before then."
I
And
agree.
it's changed 3 or 4 more times. He's not going to go before then. It's just where we're at. I don't think he was ever that close to leaving. Like I was watching, for example, the preview of Gio Gonzo. I was watching that before the first one we had. And they were like, "Oh, if he loses this one, he's gone. If he loses this one, he's gone." I've just never got that feeling. I think it's just unlikely to. I've just never thought it was super likely in the position we were in.
Yeah,
If we were in a relegation battle, then it would be a completely different story. But given how far up in the league we are, plus still being in Europe, I think there would always be a level of doubt in the minds of Sullivan or whoever makes those decisions, to where they just wouldn't. It just was never close to happening, in my opinion. It might have been there might have been an instance where if someone else was in charge of it, then yeah, sure, I think it would be a completely different story. But with Sullivan in charge, I don't really think there was ever.
I think the only way it ever got
I don't think it was ever that
heated up,
close.
well, I think the only time it would have ever got heated up is if the intensity in the fan base, especially in the away end, would have been coming out, and then banners would have started appearing basically all the time. The banner comes out at Forest, we lose the game, we go and win the next 2. So in one way, that banner's done us a bit of a favour because that comes out and also it kicks into gear, and it just seems like to
I mean,
me that,
I don't know if I'd put that down to the banner, but I know what you mean. I do know what you mean.
but it's just yeah, it is what it is, isn't it? But you know, the problem is that the other day, yeah, I just care about West Ham winning games of football. Yeah, and doing it by any means fucking necessary. Like,
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie, right? When it comes to West Ham, when you've seen enough shit over the years, and like me and you, we've seen enough shit over our lifetime to say, you
yeah.
know what, I want to enjoy this moment. Yeah. Now, whether this is the final season with Moyes, yeah, will remain to be seen. But if it is the final season with Moyes, I don't want it to be sort of filtered out into like he's the Antichrist. If that makes sense. Do you know what I'm saying? Like when
Yeah.
listen, he's actually done all right. Like I was having a debate with someone earlier on Twitter this morning. On this, just people have just got this thing in their head all the time that it all pinpoints on the manager, and I'm thinking to myself, this ownership. If Moyes is lucky to be here. Yeah, because if the ownership had any bollocks about him, they would have sacked him last season. Yeah, but they didn't. So they ain't going to sack him now. One of the lads, naming no names on the space, turned around and said to me, James, I swear to you, he won't get the sack. Yeah, he said, I'll just, it ain't going to happen. Yeah,
Yeah.
if he can be as bad as he was last season, yeah, there's no way they're going to sack him now when he's seventh in the league. Do you know what I mean? It just isn't going to happen. So I understand what people are saying, I really do. But um, what do you reckon on him in regards of from now to the end of the season? Do you reckon he's going to? Where do you reckon West Ham's going to sort of land for you?
Don't know. It could be anywhere between 7th and 11th, probably. I've got it. Depends. Like, obviously, once we get if we get through in
Mm,
Europe and we get further, and those games become harder, and we start to have to prioritize them, and then potentially say we see a situation with Alvarez getting suspended or injured, because I think as much as the last 2 months or so, the conversation has been very much without Paquetá, Kudus, or Bowen, we're nothing. We're an individuals team, which I think is just an insane statement to make, but whatever, right? Without
yeah.
Paquetá, Kudus, Bowen, we're an individuals team, blah, 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 blah. The individual you want to be looking at is Alvarez. And the thing is, we tried to sort that out in January. The one signing we did make, not
Mm.
James Walker, sorry, Calvin Phillips, and I don't want to see him. I don't want to see him play without Alvarez because Jesus Christ, he's a maniac. But the thing is, and if he can find some form, then all of a sudden it becomes a very different. It becomes a very very different question. Because if we have a backup for Alvarez, we can maybe rotate. We can focus on Europe. We can rotate a little bit. If we drop out of Europe, then we can go full force in the league. All that sort of stuff. Then we have a much better chance at finishing higher up the league. I think without that, that one guy becomes incredibly pivotal, and you only have to look at how good he was against Everton, Alvarez
Mm.
specifically, to see how pivotal he is to the team, and how pivotal he is to the way we play. That becomes a really, really it's what everything is balanced on, really. I
Yeah.
think realistically, I think we'll do all right. I think we'll probably finish in and around where we are now.
Mm.
I would see us somewhere between 7th and 9th, probably. Don't know exactly
Does
where.
does the position land uh, whether West Ham finish in the league?
Yeah,
Does that depend on David Moyes signing or going for you?
no.
Because I think if he gets Europe, my opinion is if he gets European football, I strongly don't think he's going to just hand it over to someone else to have a European campaign.
I think
Don't know
the
why.
thing. This is the thing. I think I was having a conversation with Jack from Analytics United earlier about Southgate and the England situation. And I think there's a lot of parallels between Southgate and Moyes, not necessarily stylistically, although I
Mm,
think England have the players to play a different style of football. I'm not convinced West Ham have the players to play a different style of football. I think both sets of fan bases would want something. I think both sets of fan bases seem to be hungry for something different. The problem is Southgate is incredibly successful at what he's done with the England team. Now, whether or not you think you could do something better with a better manager is a different story. The fact is, he has done it. And it's difficult to make the argument over hypotheticals when the reality of the situation is here and
yeah.
reality is good. It's not a bad situation in any shape or form, right? So with Moyes, I think there's a very similar situation where I I understood when people were making the argument saying he should have left after the Conference League game. I understood that, but I don't think it was ever a realistic option because we're West Ham United. The guy's just taken us to our first trophy in however many years, decades.
Mm.
He's not going to leave right now, and nor should
But
he. Being
but
honest about
should
it. So
he?
when you look at it this season, when you move
But
on
should
to
he have
this
been offered
season, and
though,
you're like,
Charlie? But
hmm?
should he have been offered a contract
Oh yeah, yeah,
after
he should
Prague?
have been. No, I think whether it's after Prague or whether it's halfway through the season, he should have been. But that's
Mm.
just not the way they work.
Because the way I look at it is that like people say about Moyes and everything else, but when you are looking to the future, how
Yeah.
can you plan for the future if you don't even know who the fucking manager's going to be?
Well,
Do
it
you know
should.
what I mean?
But this is the bigger problem, right, with West Ham as a whole, and this is I wholeheartedly agree with you on this. Is it's all about leadership structure, it's all about the ownership, it's all about David Sullivan. Because realistically, that shouldn't matter. If you look at a club like, if you look at most teams at this point, right, but
Yeah.
let's just stick to the clubs that are widely considered to be well run. Actually, it doesn't. It not saying it doesn't matter who the manager is, but it doesn't matter if they change manager because the philosophy is a through line put in by director of football, technical
Agree.
directors, the ownership. There's a through line there, and so you
Yep.
work off it and you bounce off it. It's not just a case of what Sullivan does, which is all right. Well, we've got Allardyce. Okay, we're getting rid of Allardyce. We want something more exciting. Let's go Slaven Bilic. Okay, well, we need something back. Oh, we're going to go back to David Moyes. Oh, we're going to go with Pellegrini. Oh, back to David Moyes. There's just this switch of going to the one end of the spectrum to the other. And so actually it shouldn't matter. I think there will be an interesting's not the word. I am scared of the conversation that will happen when David Moyes leaves because the smart thing to do is to get someone who is relatively similar to David Moyes but can evolve on certain aspects of our game and with our players to take us into a better realm, more consistent when we go up against teams like Everton, for example, where we can break them down, or teams in lower leagues that we've struggled against, right, where we can go in and we can fully break them down, but not so far away from what Moyes is doing where we're going to do something completely different. My fear is that the fan base don't want that. The fan base wants something completely and utterly different,
What do you
and
think they
won't
want?
accept that.
What do you think?
Who knows, man?
I know.
Because what's interesting to me, for example, is the Brentford game. I heard lots of people talking about, oh, this is what we've been asking for. It wasn't that different for me. Like there were elements of it, but it wasn't that different.
I
It was
think the only
relatively similar to the good
yeah.
performances we've had this season. It was relatively similar to that to me.
I will say one thing again, and going back to the Brentford game. The moment we come out, and we was forward thinking straight away from minute one. Like we was going forward all the time, and we was looking to go forward. I think what really winds me up for this club at the minute is when we play it sideways and back, and we keep recycling the ball just at the back, and we're not going nowhere. Like we go down the line, Sifel go down the line, he'll check his run, check back, pass it to Alvarez, and it proves it when Emerson and Paqueta are in the same team. If you look at the stats when they're in the same team, we seem to do extremely well. Like,
I agree there, yeah.
and we've got an outlet on both sides. Then, do you know what I mean? If you've got Emerson and Paqueta on one side, you've got Kudus and Sufal on the other side. Even though I'm not Sufal's biggest fan this season, I think he's been like that in games.
I agree.
For me, if you've got someone who's bombing up both wings and they're assisting, then you're going to have a good outlet and you're going to have a good sort of attack-minded, like forward-thinking motion instead of keep going backwards and sideways.
I
Um,
think I think relatively, I'd have to go back and fully check the numbers,
mm,
and it would take me too long, and I can't be asked to do it, frankly. But I think if I would, we're
yeah,
much more direct than people think we are. But I think my problem is something that Everton. I was impressed by what Everton did. Is not only were they direct like we are, but they were rapid with it. They were so fast at being when they wanted to, they could turn
mm,
up the speed like that. Jordan Pickford drops it, kicks it out like unbelievably accurate, by the way. Drop kick, low trajectory, right at the feet of Dwight McNeil, picks up the ball, turns around, straight pass, straight through to Beto. That he's through and goal. Like it
yeah,
was as quick as that. There was no messing around with it. And I think with us, although we are more direct than most teams are, and I think we probably play a high percentage of forward passes than other teams do, I think we're just too lethargic at times with it. We're a bit too slow with it at times. And I think we should. I often find myself during watch alongs saying, we need to speed up. We need
yeah,
to speed up. It's
yeah,
it's it's just like because we end up passing it around. I call it the horseshoe. We work our way up one side to the left wing. Oh, it doesn't quite work. No, all right, work our way back
yeah.
down to the midfield, oh, then back up to the right way. Oh, okay, no, then we back down in the back. And it's this thing of like sometimes it's better. And this is one thing Kudus is really good at. It's just picking up the ball and making something happen with it. And I think,
Direct.
for example, with Brentford, I didn't. He was really good. He was also really wasteful. Like those long shots were never going in, but he was trying them anyway. But I loved the confidence and the directness from it, and I think that's something we could learn from, for example, what Everton were doing, is just having that speed about us. Unfortunately, we don't really have someone who can kick the ball like Jordan Pickford. Areola's long kicking is horrendous. That guy
Yeah,
is. I love Areola for a lot of things. his long balls are awful. Like, he is one of the most inaccurate. Like, I
Just,
don't understand how a
I
guy
know.
can be so comfortable with the ball at his feet in short range, but when it comes to long range, just be an absolute mess,
Uh,
especially as a goalkeeper. But like, that's something I feel like we should learn. It's something we've tried to do a bit with Mavropanos and Aged with their long balls. It's something maybe Calvin Phillips could sort of get into a rhythm with doing if he ever decides to play football in a useful manner again. But yeah, it's sort of.
mm, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. Where do you think? Where do you think we are going to land? I know you said earlier on, like between seventh and ninth, but
Yeah.
well, obviously with Europe and everything else, what becomes the priority now? Because West Ham haven't got the big enough squad to do both. Like, when does the Europa League become the sole goal for West
For
Ham?
me, it already is, but that's just
Yeah,
because we have a winnable tie. Like
yeah,
Freiburg, we know we can beat Freiburg. We've beaten them before, so if we can get, so we know this is a winnable fixture. Then we go through, we see what the next round is. I think you just take it on a round by round basis. And if you
mm,
get a tie against one of the bigger sides who you're like, or a side that doesn't match us or whatever, then maybe you start to look towards the Premier League and you go, right, we need to double down our efforts on that because there will be a level of, you know, Liverpool winning the cup and everything else means that there will be an extra spot in Europe in the league and all these other things. It's worth doubling down on it at that point.
mm,
And I do think we have what it takes to finish in the European spots again. But before that point, I think you go for a trophy, surely.
yeah.
You know,
Oh yeah. Listen. Right, I'm all for trophies, mate. Do you know what I mean? Like, people want starting to play and all that, and I think, oh, that's all well and good, but if and I had this discussion earlier on, I said to someone, would you rather win 5-0 in one game or win 1-0,
true.
1-0, 1-0 and get the job done in rounds to get to a final? I'd rather
Mm.
give me the 1-0s all day long. Like, at the end of the day, football is about attack and defence, being good defensively and having quite a decent attack. And for some crazy reason, people keep thinking we're Manchester City all of a sudden when we're not. We're West Ham United, and we're never going to be Manchester City or of any note. I mean, don't get me wrong, Aston Villa, they're the exception which overdoes the rule. But look at the money
But
that
also just on Villa, by the way, what you're about to say is 100% correct. One, they've spent an insane amount of money as well. I know I keep hearing this like
yeah,
450 figure that gets banded around, which we can
it
talk about
isn't
that in
that.
more
Yeah,
detail. But like Villa, if they're playing a front line of Watkins, Bailey, and Diaby or whatever, that's like a
yeah,
hundred and something million in free players. Like they're not some. It's not difficult what they've done. They've just spent a load of money on it, and look at the losses they've just announced. like
yeah,
it's not super complex. Obviously, football is governed by money, so it's not so shocking that they spent a lot of money and they finish higher. Equally, they've done it once, and we'll
yeah,
see where they finish. I hope as a team who wants to see other clubs doing well as opposed to just the usual suspects. I 100% want them to get Champions League. I want them to get Champions League next season. They can flop out of it. I don't really care, but I want them to succeed and I want them to do their thing, right? But next season we'll see where they actually lie because when it comes to being sort of quote unquote the best of the rest, so anyone
mm,
who's outside of that Sky Sports top 6/7 if you include Newcastle over the last 4 years, it's us. It's not
I
Villa.
agree.
Villa have done it
I,
once.
I agree. When you got was it Luca Dina, who's their left back,
Yeah.
who's on stupid amounts of money, like,
Yeah.
and they paid stupid amount of money for him. Listen, I agree. I really do. I look at Villa's side. People keep forgetting about Aston Villa that they sold Jack Grealish and got a lot of money for him, which
Yeah.
they invested into the side with an owner who's prepared to invest also. So you really like well, they've done all right, Villa. Right, don't get me wrong. Has Unai Emery got them going? Of course he has. Like, he has. Like, you can't deny that. But they did have a lot of talent. Do you know what I mean? When I look at our team, we've got talented players, but we haven't got a talented squad. Like, they've got a talented squad. You go through their squad, they've got some good players in their team. Do you know what I mean? I mean, when you look at our team to their team, first thing Unai Emery done is rung up fucking Sullivan and turned around and said Danny Ings is available. Do you know what I mean? So there you go. Um, let's talk about the figure then, Charlie. Like you said, 450 million. People say 500 million. What is the actual figure?
I don't know what the
Of,
number is, but I think it's. But my problem with the figure is it gets used as an attack point as a negative for David Moyes. Like
mm,
people go, he's had more money than any other West Ham managers have. Blah 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 blah. bro, every team in the Premier League has spent more money than any other of their versions have ever had. It's just the way it goes. There's more money in football now. Inflation
Yeah.
exists. The TV rights deals are a thing. Like that's the way it goes, right? Everyone gets more money. My problem specifically with it is you're adding up every player that's been here over Moyes' tenure and gone, this is a figure. One, the figure's never 100% accurate. But two, you're telling me David Moyes spent all that money? Because we know he didn't. You're telling me David Moyes sat there and went, I want Danny Ings, a player who does not suit my system in any way, shape, or form. No, of course not. There's lots of players who weren't bought by David Moyes. It's a
Well,
really
I can say one player straight away he didn't want, who was one of my favs, and that's Ben Rama. He wanted Eze.
yeah, he wanted Eze. Yeah, he wanted Eze. And I think
So
there's a couple of examples of that. And I feel like I'm not. This isn't a Moyes defense, right? But what my point is, I guess, with the figure, and I think the figure is just a shining example of this. When you talk about the Moyes debate, is there's so much nuance to it. It's such a complicated subject with so many different bits and pieces and moving parts and mitigating factors, and some which make things worse for Moyes and some which makes things better for David Moyes. For example, buying Danny Ings, not David Moyes. I don't know that for certain, but I look at the evidence and I go, I don't see a situation in which which David Moyes would go, Danny Ings, that's my guy. But on
yeah,
the negative side of David Moyes, why the hell haven't we bought a striker? Like, let's be real. If there's one thing David Sullivan has done consistently over his time at West Ham, is buy endless amount of strikers. He bloody loves it. If there's an attacking player somewhere, he's gonna go and try and buy him. So the fact we haven't bought one, that's a negative for David Moyes. But this is my point. There's such a large, nuanced thing, and it gets boiled down to like 450 million, 500, whatever people are saying now. It will just keep inflating, James. It will carry on inflating because it's just the way these things go, right? And then it will just be like, that's why it's bad, that's why it's bad. And actually, it's such a nuanced thing. And this is kind of why I don't talk about Moyes that much on the watch-alongs. In fact, barely at all, if I'm being honest about it. To the point where people in the chat find it very aggravating. I don't really talk about it. Because it is such a difficult, complicated thing with so many different movable parts that it's not easy to break down in any sort of significant manner. And the 450 million figure is such a incredibly good example of that, because it's this big scary number that actually, when you boil it down, there's a lot of things in there that make it not what people are making it out to be.
but has David Moyes made players into big transfer fees? Like when you look at Declan Rice, someone said to me when he was with Pellegrini, he was a decent player, but he's been with David Moyes for 4 years, and David Moyes turned him into the player that he was, and gave him the like captaincy and everything. Do you know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
You got him as an example. You got to say Thomas Suchek. People either love or hate him. You either love Thomas Suchek to death or you can't stand him. But he's been one of our players. He signed him on loan, £18 million. I'm going to say this boy, he's a West Ham fucking legend to me. I don't care what anyone says. That's Jared Bowen. Like from signing him from Hull, getting him on the right, then chucking him up front this season. Look at the goals he's scoring. Yeah, if he goes and gets 20 goals, I can't remember the last time West Ham had a 20-goal centre forward in the Premier League. Like, I don't think. Like, someone tell me in the chat if they can. Right? Have we ever had a 20-goal Premier League striker at West Ham in the Premier?
I don't remember. I know the last person who scored 20 goals was Marlon Harewood in the Championship. I can't remember in the Premier League specifically who that was. And you're already going back to, when was that? That was like 2003, was it? Something like that?
Yeah. No, what, Harewood? 4.
Yeah.
2004-5 season that was.
Was that in Championship specifically?
Championship, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we got relegated in 03. But
oh, that makes sense. Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah.
And for me, when I look at the players that he has sort of brought in and he's sort of gone up to a standard, yeah, I think you've got to have a bit of give and take on it. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong, has the money been spent wisely at West Ham? The answer to that is fucking no. Like the Rob Newman era, when he went out and bought all them players, and you look at, for every Skamaka you got a Paqueta, you've got to look at it in face value. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you got to take it.
I think the transfer record on the Moyes has been real sketchy. It's probably 50-50 on hit rates, which actually in totality, he's probably not that bad. Um,
Mm.
but again, you're looking at a situation where it's not just Moyes making these decisions. Sullivan's involved heavily in the agents he talks to. Like you said, Rob Newman was involved at one point. Steiden's involved at one point. There's a lot of moving parts here. But if you want to talk about just like the record of people we have signed specifically while Moyes has been here, like you say, for every Emerson, there's an Ever. You know, like
Yeah.
it's there is like sketchiness to it for every, I don't know, whoever you want to say, there's another one, right? It's very
Mm.
50-50. It's very hit and miss. I think we've I think one of the interesting things about Moyes, and you can compare him to other managers in this sense, is the type of players Moyes would want would cost you less to buy. So if you look
Mm.
at Thomas Suchek, for example, 15 million, like it is what it is. Whereas if you want to go out, if someone wants to go out and buy, how much was Amadou? Well, how much was Onana, the one who went to Everton?
42, I think it was. Yeah.
You know, and it's like don't get me wrong, I don't think you'd get as much for Thomas Suchek, but actually from a squad building perspective, there is a usefulness to that kind of idea, you know. And I think Craig Dawson, another good idea, another good example of someone who would cost next to nothing when you buy him because he's not a Gerd. Whereas you go, right, we're going to evolve this position, we're going to get someone who's ball playing, we're going to do a bit more
Mm.
fancy stuff. Again, all right, 25 million, slap that down or whatever the number ended up being. What almost what 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times more expensive. And I'm not being funny. Craig Dawson,
Yeah.
like Craig Dawson. I think there's an interesting comparison there. But yeah, specifically with his, I think he has improved the ones that are improvable, probably in terms of monetarily. I think, like you say, there's some notable examples of that. Ben Rama's probably a big one. I don't think we'd get much more for was Zuma was another one, I guess, who we would get nowhere near what we paid for Zuma at this point. Although I think what we paid for him is probably worth it given what he's given us. But Jesus Christ, that guy is broken. He,
Yeah.
he has. I'm not sure he has any legs left. Um, Ben Rama, yeah, it's hit and miss. It's hit and miss for him.
Well, and I get to this comment from Noel. Shout out to Noel late this evening. Moyes or Steiden boys. After 2 years as a season ticket holder travelling from Dorset, I'll definitely take Tim and his signings. If we finish 15th, playing better football, then so be it. I agree, but then I disagree on the 15th because that's West Ham United at Upton Park mentality. You know what I
Sure.
mean? And when people say, "Oh, I don't care how we like, I want to play better football, and I don't care where we finish," you do care where we finish. Because if we kept finishing 15th, 15th, 15th every season, you soon have the ump of it when we're not doing fuck all and not getting up the league. Yeah, and you'd want progression. So for me, on that, I want to, that's gone. Upton Park's gone, and that hurts me every day. That's why I don't go. Yeah, but when you move to a 60,000 seater stadium and they take you from Upton Park to Stratford, there has to be a standard at West Ham, and the standard has got to be met now as a top 10, top 8 side. Yeah, we can't go from being Europe conference champions, possible Europe, and then drop down up to 15th and then 12th. We're not Crystal Palace. I'm sorry, I can't have it. But
I think
I'm strong on
I
this. I really am.
I think that's an argument I fully respect. I don't know what the name was. The guy I've
No,
lost the name. No,
yeah,
I fully respect that as an argument. Right, when I have conversations with people about David Moyes, and they say to me, "I'm bored of the football. I want a different style of football, and I'll take finishing in a worse position."
yeah,
That's a position I understand and I fully respect, and I think that is one where I don't find it inarguable. I would also like to see us play better football. You know what I mean? Like part of the reason I do so much stupidity on the watch alongs is because I have the time to, because most of the time nothing's going on when we're watching West Ham, right?
true.
It's quite like I think for other people it might be difficult because you want to talk through the game or whatever. I'll just start
Mm,
talking about Baby Bells or Danny DeVito or whatever other nonsense because I have the time to do it. I would much prefer us to play a better style of football. I fully if the argument is I will take finishing worse to play better style of football, broadly would agree with that. I think for me, the one thing that makes it different, and I would always have said something along the same lines. The one thing that's different for me now than 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, whatever it was,
yeah,
we won a cup. I never thought that was possible. it's really difficult to argue against that. And I think when Moyes does eventually move on, whether it's this summer, whether it's in 4 seasons time, whenever it's next Tuesday, I don't really care when it is. I do
Mm.
want to see us take a step towards more attractive football. No matter what, I
It,
want to see a step towards it. No matter how big
but
that step is, I want to see a step towards it.
yeah,
But I do think, and I've been saying this for probably about a year, I do think at some point we're going to have to come to terms as a fan base that we're probably going to get worse when he leaves, because you can't do like people talk about how big a rebuild we need to do, and we need to get rid of. Thomas Suchek's not going to be doing up Pep Guardiola passing movements. It's just not going to happen. And Thomas Suchek's one of our most important players. As
yeah,
many there are a couple of players in this team, Paquetá, Kudus potentially, um, Emerson, Aged, Mavropanos, who
mm,
would be at 100% ready to do a completely different style of football right now. You go the exact opposite way; those ones are completely 100% ready.
yeah,
Sufal, Cresswell, Zuma, Suchek, um, I would argue Jared Bowen, Mikel Antonio, Fabianski, potentially Areola, but less so that. There's a lot more players who aren't. And
yeah,
in a world where, the financial stuff is how it is now, in terms of A, how much players cost, but also how forward the Premier League are trying to be with stamping out stuff and points deductions and all these other kind of things, there's
mm.
not that much money floating around to be able to do such insane rebuilds. And so in that sense, we're going to get caught between between um between two steps. And in that
But
moment when you're caught between two steps, the
mhm.
results will get worse.
But isn't this the reason why we moved? Because what it
Yeah, yeah,
is,
yeah. No, 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 no. It was 100% the reason we accepted moving. It
yeah,
wasn't the reason we moved. It was the reason they sold it to us to make us accept moving. If you see
because
what I'm saying.
the way I look at this, yeah, if for instance Moyes stays, signs 4 or 5 players like Styling did last summer, this summer, then
Yeah,
you start seeing a team being built. Yeah, I've always said this. I've got a feeling if he does stay, he'll stay for another 2 years. They'll build a team up and they'll hand it over to someone else. Is the team
yeah.
really ready to be handed over to someone else right now for a major rebuild? I don't know. I
I
really
don't, I
don't.
don't, I
Right.
don't think a major rebuild's possible
That's
unless
right.
you
That's what
were
I'm
to
saying.
sell. Unless you are to sell the players who are worth something. So say Paquetá and Kudus and Bowen,
Mm,
then you could start doing them. But then again, if you sell Paquetá, then one of the people you would want to base your rebuild around is gone. If you sell Kudus, that's another one. And
yeah.
Bowen's the only guy there who I think would suit a style. So like, and I saw someone in the chat by the way say Kudus is great. There's no bones about it. I'm not saying Kudus is bad. Don't get me wrong. What I'm saying is Kudus potentially stylistically, I think suits maybe David Moyes more than I think he would a possession based football side. That's a different topic for a different day. But yeah, I don't think there is. But I don't think it's possible to really rebuild right now. I think
Mm,
I think that's why I'm saying I think the smart thing to do is to take steps away from Moyes, not to jump, not to run in the opposite direction. I think
the
you
only
bring
thing,
in someone who can do a lot of what Moyes does and keeps those basics
yeah.
in place, but can evolve on that to make us better. I think that's how you keep the level of consistency, trying to still compete for Europe, trying to still be what we are, and then you can slowly take pieces of the players out. You can take
Mm.
out a Thomas Suchek and put in someone who's got a lot of the same attributes but is a bit better on the ball. Then you take out someone else, you put someone in who's a bit more different, and you
Yeah, but
slowly work your way there.
the only thing I will say though, Charlie, yeah, is when I hear people say about they would rather see West Ham finish 15th but play
Yeah.
good football, that's not sustainable. You can't play good football and finish 15th in the league. Do you know what I'm saying? Because if you're finishing 15th in the league, it's because you're
No,
15th.
no one would ever
Best.
survive finishing 15 consistently at West
That's
Ham.
what,
There's no manager that would consider that would survive doing that.
that's what I'm saying. Because what it is, and people don't like to admit this, they fucking hate admitting this moment, but I'm going to say it. But David Moyes has changed the expectation of every fan at West Ham United Football Club.
Yeah, it's probably true.
Because the moment West Ham, when he arrived, Bournemouth at home, 2020, New Year's Day, 4-0 win, no one believed the journey that West Ham was going to go on from that day to the present day right now. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
And then there is a reason why West Ham are trying to aim for high-end managers, because the manager that we've currently got right now has instilled that into the side of a winning mentality. One thing West Ham United have never had is a winning mentality. They've had a flaky mentality. Yeah, for all the years that I've been watching West Ham, there's been moments where they've been good in moments or one-off seasons, and then they've gone back to being the same old West Ham. Yeah, I mean, like one good game, two bad games, one draw, two wins, two losses, etc. Yeah. Currently, right now, where we are is what we was really promised by the ownership of the club. Right, you go
Yeah.
into a big round, you're going to consistently get into Europe. Fair enough. Do we need to go to another level with a manager? Possibly. The issue I have is, do you trust the ownership to go out and do that? That is the
I also
real thing.
I agree with you wholeheartedly with that. With that statement specifically, I 100% agree with you wholeheartedly on that. I don't trust David Sullivan to do anything. I don't even trust him to decorate his own house. If you've seen that place, it's horrendous looking.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie. I've seen the pictures in the Daily Mail or whatever it is. He's got big waxwork butlers just standing around. I don't understand what's going on. I'm strongly against it as a decor choice.
yeah.
And I'm not. I'm not. Listen, I'm no Lawrence Llewellyn Bowen. I might have the hair for it, but I ain't him. His decor bad. What I would say is that I think another conversation is something we're probably going to have to come to terms with in the next couple of years, at least, if not sooner. I don't know if there's another level to jump. It becomes really, really difficult unless you get bought by a nation state with a dodgy
Mm.
human rights record and a lot of oil. I don't know how easy it is to jump to another level than what we're doing right now. The level right now being consistently in Europe,
Yeah.
winning a trophy, competing at the top end of the table. I don't know how possible it is to jump up a level. And if that's the case, because there's that 6/7 teams, probably 7 now, we can say with Newcastle, who have so much money,
Mm.
so much money that they can basically do whatever they want. You've seen with Manchester City, you can basically do whatever you want, buy whoever you want, run roughshod over everyone, and then just do some creative accountancy and emails in the background, which means you get away with it all scot free, right? If there's those teams that exist that try to
Mm.
pull up the entire fabric of football to make the European Super League just so they could get more money. If that exists, what is the goal for West Ham in that future? What does that mean? And I think realistically, what that means is probably being a team who tries to win cups every year. And at that point, again, David Moyes semi-final, one, and then winning the whole thing, and then being consistent through in Europe every single year, top of the group, 3 years in a row.
Mm.
What I don't know what the next level is apart from just doing it, but with a different style of football. And at that point, doing the same thing but with a different style of football,
I think what it is,
it's very
I,
risky. It's a very risky thing to do.
I know what you're saying. Listen, I agree with you on this. Yeah, I think when you bring a new manager in, people expect it to be hit the ground running.
Yeah,
It's going to
sure.
be amazing. Yeah, I understand it for one season. If West Ham go from there down, yeah, I can get that. But can you handle that consistently if the football is okay to a point? Because
Sure.
I don't care what anyone says. If you finish 15th, 14th in the league, you're not playing good football. Like, good football is teams like Villa. Like, so
Mm.
that's the mentality. Yeah, you've got to get that. Like, for people who want good football, your mentality should be West Ham top 10 every single year. And if we don't get top 10, there's got to be a reason why we haven't got top 10. Now, I just see a comment in the comment section, someone saying we didn't get top 10 last season, but we won a trophy. If someone would have said to me
Mm.
last season, James, you're going to finish 14th in the league, but you're going to win that Conference League, would you accept that? Give me the 14th in the Premier League all day long. Like, because
Yeah, I agree.
if you can accept 15th in the league with good football, but you can't accept 14th in the league with a trophy, then there's something mentally not right there. Then. I'm sorry, but there is. Like, there has to be something mentally disturbed. If you can accept a bottom half mid-table finish with good football, but you can't
Mm.
accept a 14th in the league and winning a trophy. Now I'm going to ask you this question, Charlie, because I had someone on the other week. You mentioned it there. is the Conference League a trophy for you, or is it just a Mickey Mouse tin
No,
pot trophy?
it's 100% a trophy.
Yeah,
Who are we to turn up trophies?
I know.
It's insane to me. Like, of course it is. I think anything's a trophy. You give me the League Cup, I'd be buzzing with it. You know, I don't.
Yeah,
When we sit here and I talk about those 6/7 teams, right? The Sky Sports top seven, whatever you want to call them, right? Spurs are part of that. When was the last time they won something? Do you know what I mean? And that's not a shot at Spurs, although you can take it as one because funny. Like they're in that group. They ain't won now. You know,
mm,
like when you look at it, like you can't start picking and choosing. Like, sure, the Betway Cup, I will jokingly say is a trophy. I'm joking when I say that. The Europa Conference League is 100% a trophy, just because it happens to be the branding is green and doesn't have some stars on it or whatever. Doesn't mean it's anything less for us. That's still a big achievement. Just because we were the favourites to win it at one point doesn't mean it's any less of an achievement than winning anything
mm,
else. Of course, it's a trophy, 100%. And I
I
think
agree.
anyone who's saying anything otherwise is kidding themselves. It's
Yeah,
insane to me. Like, are
yeah,
you telling me when that goal went in, when Bowen scored that winner, are you telling me your gut reaction was, yeah, it doesn't matter, does it? No, of course it wasn't. Everyone was losing their minds. And so what? Now just because you're not in the moment, you go, actually, it doesn't really count. Well, of course not. You know, I'm
yeah,
not having it. Like, I remember I listen to a lot of like I read a lot of stuff that's generic football stuff or not that's like Premier League focused maybe or basically stuff that isn't just about West Ham. You know, I'll consume
yeah,
podcasts, I'll read websites and magazines or whatever stuff about general football stuff, and a lot of the time West Ham never gets mentioned. You know what it's like match a day
yeah,
last, you get 2 minutes and it's like match. They'll go West Ham played well and they'll go yep, and then they move on sort of thing, right? That sort of thing. When we won the Conference League every single outlet, all of them, all of the pundits, all of them are going, wow, look how important this is. Look how amazing this is. Look at the scenes when 100,000 people turned up in Stratford to celebrate the trophy lifting ceremony and all that sort of stuff, right? Look how amazing that was. That's
mm,
made me think, and this is the pundits talking, that's made me think that this is worth something where before I wasn't really that fussed. You
yeah,
know? I'm not going to sit here now just because we're, you know, 7, 8 months removed or whatever it is. And it's a bit, we've had a bit of a bad period of form, but I'm now going to go, nah, it wasn't really worth anything. It was all just a joke. We're favourites to win it. It doesn't count. Bro, when Bowen scored that goal, I was sat on the watch along in literal disbelief.
mm,
I walked into when the watch along was done, I turned it off. I went into the other room, or the review was done. I turned it off. I went into the other room to speak to my girlfriend, and she said, "How was it?" And I just went, "West Ham have just won a trophy," and she was like, "Oh, that sounds important." I was like, "Yeah," and I couldn't explain to her how important it was, how insane this thing was that happened. Like that West Ham scored. You're talking about earlier on when we were talking about the Everton game and how it's not West Ham who usually scores last minute winners. It's the opposition. We scored a last minute winner in a European Cup final to win a trophy.
yeah,
What? Like you can't discount that for me. You can't. And I anyone who says otherwise, I think is massively misguided.
yeah. I agree. I agree with everything you just said there, mate. Right, I come on this stream straight after and I broke down because I've seen West Ham get relegated multiple times. I've seen us lose all our players. I've seen us nearly go out of business. I've seen us lose our sponsor and have no fucking sponsor on the front of the shirt. I've seen it all.
Do you
I've seen a
remember?
lot.
I do
Yeah,
flipping like players walking around with those
yeah.
white squares where the
Well,
logo for SBO Bet or whatever it was went
yeah,
out of
and
business.
all out of business, right? So I've seen it all. Yeah, and that on the 7th of June 2023, because that start there forever. Yeah,
Yeah.
that to me means the world to me. Fucking means the world to me, and I don't care what anyone says. People downgrade it because it's David Moyes who won the trophy. Now, for me, when you look at what we've done over this last 4 years with him, if he was to sail off into the sunset, I do think he needs to come out and say if he's going to be leaving or not. Don't just leave it to the end of the season and just sail off into the sunset because I think that's just the wrong choice of thing. But I just think we've just got to get behind the team, behind the boys, and just behind the manager to a point, whether you like him or not. You just got like, even if you despise this geezer, yeah, you don't support David Moyes. You support West Ham United Football Club. I support West Ham United Football Club. All right, the players come and go, managers come and go, staff come and go, but the club will always remain. Do you know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
fucking that trophy to me, right, will always mean everything. And when people downplay it for the David Moyes argument, I think they're fucking mad, mate, if I'm being honest. Like, because like when can we be picky of a trophy? Like the last time we got to a final was in '06, and fair enough, we should have won that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we can't be fucking picky, mate. I'm telling you that now. Like we really can't.
After 2006, the
Mm.
2006-7 season, we went out to Palermo. Well, then we went out to Astrajiju in 2000, whatever
Yeah.
it was, 14-15. Then we went out to Astrajiju again, the next year again in a row. I've seen this club go through, what's that? That's three different
Yeah.
campaigns in European football where we haven't even we failed to even get to the group stages. The
Yeah.
only times we've got in, and one of them wasn't even because of league position, that one was just because we didn't get that many yellow cards that season. Right?
Fair
That's
play.
how insane that qualification was. It wasn't even like we earned it through like sporting merit. We did it because we basically we were in Champions League spots in December, and then Sam Allardyce decided to do nothing for the rest of the season, and so we didn't do any yellow cards because we basically didn't play football, and then we managed to sneak our way into Europe because of it, and they got rid of that way of getting into Europe because it's such an
Yeah.
insane way after that. I've seen us three separate times, right, in my watching and remembering lifetime, not even get to the not even get to the group stages, fall
I
out in
remember
the
that.
qualification stages, right? So, and I'm not going to sit here and poo-poo any of our success in Europe after that because it's just not something that we get. And I feel like I think there is 100%. Like there are so many arguments to make about David Moyes, so many arguments to make about David Moyes. Poo-pooing our achievements to do that feels misguided. Feels
Yeah.
massively misguided.
Could not agree with you more on that. Like shitting on the trophy because you don't like the manager. Like, and I've this quite a lot on Twitter. Before we move on to sort of Freiburg, to round it up, I've this quite a lot on Twitter where people sort of shit on the trophy for the David Moyes argument, and I think you can think Moyes is a cunt quite openly, right? But don't
Yeah.
shit on our biggest achievement in the last 43 years. Like, do you know what I mean, Charlie? It's like you want to fucking dig at him, but you're digging it in because he's won us a trophy. If that makes sense, do you know what I'm saying? It shouldn't be like that. So
I
um,
agree. 100% agree.
it's just one of them that sort of irritates me. But whatever happens from now to the end of the season, to round this up before we move on, just support the boys, people. That's all I'm going to say. Support the boys through thick and thin. If West Ham don't play amazing, but come Saturday or Sunday, they've got the result. Enjoy it. Like,
Mm.
don't sit there and go, fucking hell. Like, they could have attacked more. They could have had like saves and all that, Because at the end of the day, if you're going to keep consistently moaning all the time, you're never going to be happy in life. Never. Like, and I'm going to say it quite openly. Yeah, you can want change, but it ain't happening this season. Yeah, come May the 25th, I think it is, or yeah, May the 26th, 25th, whatever that is, Manchester City. The moment the final whistle goes in that game, you've got every right to go fucking mad and say, right, he's got to go now. He's got to get out the door. But not while we're in a moment. Because if something special did happen this year, not saying it will, but say something did happen this year special, I don't want to be sitting there doing streams and hearing just bollocks all the time. Do you know what I'm saying? Because it just gets you down. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm getting down by my own fans putting the club down for their own argument, which is pretty fucking mad if I speak the truth, but it is what it
I,
is.
I'll tell you this very quickly because it is a very ridiculous thing to talk about because I think me and you are in very privileged positions where we talk about West Ham in the way we talk about it in the spaces we talk about it. You know, we have a
Yeah.
channel where we can sit and people can get involved and whatever. Like, I find it incredibly I find it incredible that anyone watches my watch alongs, for example. I don't, to this day, still do not understand for the life of me why anyone tunes in. And yet I'll be sat there, like the other day I was sat there, I can't remember, I said some stupid thing about something dumb, I don't know, musicals or, I don't remember, I don't even remember what I was saying, it was some nonsense. And then I looked up at the little view counter that StreamYard has in the top left, and it had over 1,000 people there. And I'm like, what nonsense am I saying in front of this many people? What am I doing? What is going on here? Why is this happening, right? So I find it very. I find it. I want to preface this first. I want to say that first because I don't want
Mm.
people to think I have it lost on me that that is a ridiculous thing. It's so difficult to cover West Ham at the moment.
It
Not
is.
because of necessarily the football or the results. Just and I spoke about this on Twitter briefly, but the environment is so toxic.
It is
And it's
bad, yeah.
not toxic because of other people. It's toxic because we're all shouting at each other. And it's such an it's such a difficult thing to go through as a fan base. And I don't want to sit here and act like I'm saying everyone should be nice to me because I don't really care what people say about me. What
Mm.
bothers me because people who've watched watch-alongs will know some troll comes in tries to say something about me and I'm just like I literally could not care less. like whatever these people say, I've had worse things said to me by people I actually care about. You lot don't care, right? These trolls in chat not fussed. What annoys me is when I'm sat doing a watch along and I can see people in the live chat screaming at each other
Yeah.
because they disagree on David Moyes, basically, specifically. They disagree on two words, and it's either saying the words Moyes in or Moyes out. And like that tiny change, that one word change in that statement means they are screaming and pulling each other apart in the comment section because of it. And I'm like, bro, we're all West Ham fans. Why are we can have discussions about it. That's 100% done. We can me and you've had
Yeah, but
discussions about it.
yeah, but
Everyone's
do you
had
know what it is
discussions about
though?
it. It's
Yeah,
when they're screaming at each other.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just
but do you know
like,
what? Yeah, but do you know what it is though, Charlie? Yeah, this is what irritates me, is that if West Ham win a game, I want to enjoy the win. I don't want to be
sure.
talking about the fuck. I don't want to be talking about the fucking manager morning, noon, and night, like calling in this, that, and the other. Right? If you don't like Moyes, I get it, but let's not. When we win a game, yeah, let's try and enjoy the fucking win for the first thing. You're totally right. I totally agree with you. It's a toxic atmosphere at the minute. Yeah, but for me, there should be no fucking like. I'm gonna say this. Fuck it. I'm gonna say it. Everyone needs to start looking at the ownership of the club for allowing it to carry on. I've said it for a long time. Right, and people think on other channels that I'm a bit of a cunt. Yeah, I'm not a cunt. I know what I'm talking about when it comes to the ownership of this club. I'm going to say it. Fuck it. Yeah, this is the after hours, right? I know what I'm talking about. Yeah, the ownership of this club has allowed this to carry on and on and on, and now
I know,
this
I agree.
is it's just built up over the last 6 to 9 months. Yeah, you could have been Moyes out last year, fine. Yeah, but there should have been a decision made in the summer. Back him, sack him. Simple as that. People keep saying about, are you Moyes in, Moyes out? How about saying about the ownership of the club and David Sullivan? Why has David Sullivan allowed this to carry on? Yeah, he's allowed it to carry on because you've got two sets of fans want to go at each other. Now, I'm going to say this before we move on. The banners come out, the GSB banners come out. The following week, something comes out in the press, and David Moyes is at his presser, and he turns around and he says, "Oh, we're going to discuss the contract at the end of the season." When the other week, he said the contract's there, and he's just got to wait to sign it. That's from the board. I'm telling you, look at the board. And Moyes, does he get a lot of stick? He does. Does he deserve most of it? I wouldn't say so, but he does deserve a bit for his attitude and his team antics, so to speak. But look at the ownership of the club. Now, I'm so glad people are starting looking up the fucking mountain, like I've always said, because that is the problem. You can go and get the best manager on the planet, yeah, at West Ham United Football Club. It will not change with the ownership the
Well,
way they are.
frankly, the best manager in the
Simple as that.
planet wouldn't work for David Moyes. That wouldn't work. Sorry, wouldn't work for David Sullivan. Just wouldn't happen.
Agree. Agree with you, mate.
I understand. It's like you say, there are so many reasons to be to find frustrations with David Moyes and to want to change manager. For example, one of the biggest ones for me, his complete disregard for youth players has been a huge problem for me the entire time he's been here. And it's not like I'm someone who sits here and thinks Mubama's going to solve all of our problems up front, or Ollie
Yeah,
Scarlett should
so
be playing left back,
yeah,
or whatever it is. But I think it is insane that we have two goalkeepers, three strikers on our bench just because they happen to be senior players, and you don't get the opportunity to you don't put a Patrick Kelly or an Orford or a whoever it is, Potts when he's not on loan, or whoever it is, Gideon
Mm.
Kadua, Callum Marshall, all these people, right? How they don't make the bench, and then you look at it and you got, well, we've got two goalkeepers, we've got two centre backs, we've got two fullbacks. Sorry, when are we going to be substituting all of these players on again? What about if we need to substitute? I don't know, a winger, a midfielder. Why aren't we doing that? Right? This is one of my big problems with David Moyes, for example, and it's something that he'll never change, and something that I will never be able to I'll never be able to get over because I hate it. Like the youth academy is such a huge thing, and actually, I think from even if you just look at it from a purely financial standpoint, going into the future, the youth academy is going to be such a huge thing because those players are pure profit, and that means we can actually go and buy better players if we do end up selling them, like Declan Rice, like Chelsea want to do, for example, with Conor Gallagher, who they want to sell him even though he's so important to them because he counts as pure profit. That way they can go and actually sign players they need to get better as a club, right? The £1 billion bottle jobs and all that. They have to think about it in those terms. It's so important to us, and it frustrates the living daylights out of me. And I understand the other part is I understand that people, like someone said it in the chat, right? Someone said you can't sack the board, you can't sack the owner. And that is 100% true. And so I understand why the
I
frustration
disagree on
turns
that.
to the. Well, here's the thing. I understand why people turn their frustrations towards David Moyes. One, because I don't think it's entirely shocking that there was more
Easy
anger
target though,
towards
Charlie.
David. Well,
Easy
I
target.
don't think I don't think there's more. I don't think it's entirely shocking that there was more anger towards David Sullivan when he was talking very publicly a lot, and then the
Yeah.
second he stops talking, then he sort of fades into the background, and then David Moyes is the guy at the front. And let's be real, David Sullivan 100% throws David Moyes
Yeah,
under the
but
bus.
I'm going to say this
100%
though.
does that.
Yeah, I'm going to say this though. Yeah, when people say you can't sack the owner and all that, yeah, if you started putting pressure on Sullivan, right, you've only got to look at it the other week. Proved it the other week. Banners start coming out, and then all of a sudden, the
This is what I was going to say. Yeah,
there's a PR thing that comes out, shut the whole thing down straight away. Right, we ain't going to talk about David Moyes' contract. We're going to discuss it at the end of the season. Kills all the arguments stone dead. Yeah, because he knew, Sullivan knows, yeah. And if you think that a manager's going to come in here and work under Sullivan's reign, and I know everyone thinks about Steiden. I think Steiden's a good appointment at West Ham, right? I really do. But Steiden can only do so much, right? And Sullivan will always run the show. He's the master. He's the puppet master, and he pulls the fucking strings. However much you don't like to hear that, people, I'm going to say it. He pulls the fucking
he's
strings at
still
West Ham.
heavily involved.
Of course he is, 100%, Charlie. And
It's not.
like,
The dream is that Steiden would have been given all the power when he turned up, and 100%, even just the hiring of Tim Steiden is a step in the right direction. In the same way that originally the step of hiring Newman was a step in the right direction. These are all steps towards where we should be. The problem
yeah,
is while David Sullivan, I don't even get. Look, David Sullivan could even be the owner. I really don't care. My problem here is that he is involved, and he should not be involved. His involvement should be beginning of the season. He sits down. They can address the budget. They can say, right, these are the goals. He agrees to them, and then he just leaves. And then everything else is up to the actual people who know what they're doing. For the longest time, David Sullivan has been the director of football at West Ham. He hasn't got that title because he's the owner, but that's what he does. Sam Allardyce in interviews. Yeah, sometimes I just turn up to the training ground and then I get told there's a new striker on the way that I haven't heard of and didn't want because David Solomon's just bought him. Do you know what I
yeah.
mean? These things happen. These things exist, and he's always done it. We always talk about Sully specials, who are South American players that he's obsessed with, that he thinks he can come in and turn a huge project on and all that, profit on and all that. But he was doing that back at Birmingham. It's not like he started doing it here. He's always done it. It's just over the last couple of years where we've got more successful, he's been slightly less involved, but he is still involved. And as long as he's still involved, there will always be a cap on what we can achieve. There will always be a cap on how
Great.
well we can be run, because he is a massive block. Because frankly, I'm not convinced he knows what he's talking about at any point. Now, as a business, I would listen to him. If I went to him for business advice, I would listen to him. When it comes to buying and running a football club, I don't know. I don't know if I trust that guy.
Well, let's put it this way. Tim Steiden wasn't appointed by David Sullivan. He was appointed by Daniel Kudinski. That's a common fact. Look it up, people. Right, I'm not lying to you. Right, I know that. I read up on it, and it was Daniel Kudinski who forced it really and said, "Right, we need to get someone in here." because basically from the last transfer window, it was a nightmare. Like you got Kera in there, you had Flynn Downs in there, it was just all scrambled, right? Not got a problem with that, yeah. But if people think that a new manager's going to come in, walk in, and it's all going to be sunshine and rainbows, I'm sorry, it ain't. Yeah, it really isn't. Like it'll be all right at the start, and then
Even
the same little things will just start to appear in the cracks again.
but even if it was Sullivan that hired Steiden, right? I don't think it particularly matters. If I run a business and I hire the best accountant in the world,
Yeah,
if I'm sat by them next to the computer telling them what buttons to press, it doesn't matter.
I
It
know.
doesn't. It doesn't matter. So like he might if even if he did even if we were to give him the credit of hiring Steiden, right? Which I don't. Whatever. Either way, it really doesn't make a difference because the fact is he's still in there doing stuff.
Yeah,
Still being involved, and it's like Steiner can go out and can identify 10 strikers who might suit Moyes, might suit the next manager, whoever. In fact, actually, no, manager's the better example here. Let's use that one, shall we? Steiner can sit there and go, right, here's 10 managers who I think could work at West Ham. Unless he's the one who's making those decisions, it doesn't matter at all. Because one, we know, for example, David Sullivan won't go and buy the contract of another manager out from another club. That's just not going to
right.
happen. So instantaneously, anyone who's currently in a job, off the list, they're gone. Right. So then you're down to the pool of just people who are currently free, who are currently doing that. And then you go, right, what kind of thing do you want? What kind of style of football do you want? What kind of budgets are we working with? Blah 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 blah. And then when that person comes in and comes to have an interview, they're going to be interviewed by David Sullivan. Like, don't get me wrong, Steidem will probably be involved, but he will still be there. He'll still be the one involved making those decisions. And then that manager then has to look at the track record of David Sullivan, not Steiden. You'll have to look at the track record of David Sullivan. And it becomes a lot more difficult to try and sell someone on a project when the guy who's leading the project is not good. It's not
Actually,
good.
I actually agree with you, mate. Everything you just said there is exactly how I feel, right? Especially in regards of Sullivan. Like, it is a nervous time. Don't get me wrong. I understand him in Moyes and everything, but I'm just glad. And I am. I really am glad people are starting to look up there. I know people don't like to hear it about the ownership of the club because it's been going on for years, right? But in this situation, he showed his true colours after Prague, right? There was lads and ladies and kids and everyone who was out in Prague celebrated our best moment. And David fucking Sullivan is on Talksport trying to sell our best player. That tells you all you need to know about the owner of West Ham United Football Club. The
the
sooner he
entire
goes,
time the
the
entire
better.
time before that, how many times, like for years we heard Sullivan talking non-stop publicly, right?
Yeah,
Talking non-stop publicly. He'd be on different shows, he'd be on radio stations, he'd be in newspapers, all this stuff. And then when it all went really wrong and people were protesting against him specifically, and there was that moment in the stadium, and don't get me wrong, I do not for 1 second condone people throwing shit at the owners. That was not acceptable. But when the protest was happening inside the stadium, all of a sudden he stopped. He changed. He stopped being so public, and he faded into the background, and everyone just sort of slowly forgot about it. Kretinsky came along. That was very exciting. So people were talking about that a bit more. We started getting better on the pitch with David Moyes. People started talking about that a bit more. The second the second we won a trophy,
I agree.
the
Go on.
next morning, hello Jim, how's it going, mate? Yeah, no, we're gonna sell Deckers. Like, I don't even care if that was like, why are you so public? Why are you here? Why are you talking right now? I know why you're talking because you're mates with Jim White, but like, why are you talking right now? Why is it
Why are
taking
you
to
not?
right now?
Why are you not enjoying the moment? That is the real question here, right? If as a fan, I woke up in the morning, I was buzzing. Yeah, didn't go to bed till about 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Obviously in the night. Woke up about 9 o'clock in the morning because I'm fucking buzzing. West Ham just won a trophy. Yeah. And then he's on Talk Sport and he's trying to sell our best player. Like live on Talk Sport. That tells you
I
all
don't,
you need to know about the fucking owner.
I don't,
Honestly.
I don't even care if he was trying to sell a player. Do you know what? If you're in that scenario and you really want to be interviewed, which a bit odd that you're there, it feels a little bit like John Terry wearing a kit and going up to accept the trophy when he didn't play the match, but that's fine. Whatever.
Yeah.
Just be like, oh, what an incredible achievement. The boys were incredible. And when Jim White goes, what about Declan Rice? Is he going to be leaving? You go, I don't know, but I tell you what, he's won us a trophy. What a captain we have! Incredible
Yeah,
player. Blah 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 blah. That's all you need to say. And look, I think there is an argument to be said, and I think I had this conversation with Gio at the time. I think there is an argument to be said that he was trying to drive interest and be public about it. That way, Man City would come in and start bidding alongside Arsenal to try and beat. And I get all that, but there's times and there's ways to do it,
agree.
and that weren't the time, and it weren't the way.
I can agree, mate.
It's so frustrating.
I
So
could
so
not.
frustrating.
I could not agree with you more on that. I really couldn't. Really, really couldn't. We could be all night on that one. But we'll talk about this quickly. Um, Thursday night, Charlie.
Yeah.
Will it be repeat or revenge for you? How you feeling about it?
I'm pretty. I'm vibing a repeat. I think we've come into form at the right time. They're out of form right now. I can't remember exactly what it is. I think they've won one in the last 6 or 7 or something like that.
Yeah,
Lost 3 or 4, drawn a couple. They're not in great form. Obviously, they're in a situation where they're going to have to be thinking about the league a little bit more than they are going to be thinking about the Europa League and stuff. And I think our coming into form with the right players at the right time is going to really help us. I think it's our tie to lose. I'll say that much. That's not to say it's a guaranteed win. Not at all. Not at all. But I feel like it was the best tie we could get because we've already beaten them twice. We know we can beat them. And thankfully, we managed to have found form in time to head into
yeah,
it strong.
yeah. I agree. I agree with everything what you just said there. I think it's the perfect time for West Ham. When it got announced 11, 12 days ago, people were saying, "Oh, I wanted Milan or Lisbon or whatever." I went, "No, this is actually perfect for West Ham because if West Ham get past these, the confidence starts to build. Then you start getting involved in the competition, right? It's a last 16 game. West Ham beat this side and get into the last eight. You've got to think like it's quarterfinals time. Do you know what I mean? A West Ham final, semi-final, like I don't know. I've got a strong feeling West Ham might do a job on this team on Thursday night. Like I think
Yeah.
it suits West Ham's game. They're going to have to come forward. West Ham are going to play that low block, which everyone loves currently right now. And West Ham could hit them on the break a few times. If West Ham score early and they have to come out, then I'm hoping West Ham can do a job on them. Yeah, because what I would like to see happen is West Ham go for it in this game. Yeah, and try and get
Yeah.
the job done over there if they can. And then if they can get them back to LS and they're a goal in front or 2 goals in front, West Ham at home, when the fans are together, we can beat anyone at the LS. We really can. Yeah, we've only lost one European game there, and that was the Eintracht Frankfurt game under Moyes. So um, for me, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I really am, and I just feel with West Ham currently right now, the confidence is starting to build. 2 wins. Got this game on Thursday. We've got a nice-ish game against Burnley on Sunday, and then you got the following game the next Thursday. Then you got Villa, then you got the international break. So for me, I think it's perfect. So, what are you predicting, Charlie? What you saying?
I'll say 2-1. I'll make it easy and say 2-1. I won't go insane just yet. I feel like we are susceptible defensively. And I think the first leg being away, I feel like they are going to come at us. I think as much as we have taken a step up form wise, offensively, defensively, we still are. There's still some shakiness there. And so I think they'll probably score, but I'll back us with a 2-1 win. I'd back us with a 2-1 win.
Mm. Um, I'm actually going to say a 2-0 win, mate. I think West Ham might do the same thing as what happened uh, before 2-0.
Mm,
I don't know why. I think West Ham with a better attacking side over there. Kudus, Paqueta, and Bowen are going to scare the life out of anyone. Do you know what I mean? And if they're all on it together, then West Ham will be fine. I think when I do look at West Ham currently right now, they're going to come forward, as I say. I think we're going to hit them on the break. If we can get 2-0, get them back to the LS, then we'll be right. A draw for me away, and then I see it from the bowling lounge. Shout out to the bowling lounge. Go and subscribe. Also, Ways here. Go and
100%.
subscribe to that. Go and subscribe to that man's channel. Yeah, Jeff's channel. I just think we're trying to remember his name. It's late at night, so yeah. yeah, Jeff's channel. Go and subscribe to his channel, the Bowling Lounge. Getting to 100 subscribers. People all say that. So yeah, what he's just said there, 1-0, 3-1 at home. For me, I want West Ham to win this game away from home. Yeah, give us a bit of confidence. You know what I'm saying? And we're scoring goals currently right now. We've scored 7 goals in the last 2 games, so we can't be moaning at that. So 2-0 West Ham. Get your money on. Paqueta scores first. Bowen scores second. Clean sheet. Let's go. Charlie, anything else you want to add, mate? Before we wrap this up, it's been a good discussion tonight. I will say that. It's been quite good, Charlie. I must admit. Got
Yeah,
me
I've
blood
enjoyed it.
pumping.
It's been a while since I've been on your 20, so subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure to hit that like button because it helps out massively. Yeah, no, I've enjoyed it. Appreciate you having me on, James.
No worries at all, mate. You're always a pleasure. You're always welcome on this channel, mate. Good man. Yeah, you and Gio and Gonzo and all that over at Hammers Chat. I'll be back Thursday night to discuss Freiburg. It's a good one. Yeah, it's a good one. We're all happy, and Low Block FC have done it, and it's a clean sheet, and we are massive. But shout out to all the people who are going over there. Also, be safe. It's obviously the first game. There was no fans in the ground, was there? Because of our stadium ban, which we was famous for. But it is what it is. Do you know what I mean? We'll be back though. And yes, I say, yeah, smash a like on the video, subscribe to E20 Zone TV, hit notification bell, all of that malarkey. I'm going to be getting someone on for Cheltenham next week. So if you become a member, you might be able to watch the video. I'm getting a tipster on. He's going to give me all the tips for Cheltenham. And when I become a millionaire, then I might be able to buy a mic. But there you go. Do you know what I mean? But it is what it is. Times are hard. Recession. But yeah, that's enough from us. It's been a late one. It's been a good one. And I'll see you again in the next one. Take care.